Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. The weakest ship in the fleet, humans upgraded it into a dark final fare. The Tenacity drifted at the far end of orbital station 99's docking area, almost forgotten. Dust gathered on its hull, and the once bright markings of the Galactic Federation had faded to a dull gray. Light from the nearby star glinted off its old metal skin, revealing patches of rust and small dents from space debris. It was an old light cruiser, built when the Federation was young and humans were still finding their way among the stars. Admiral Krell's face showed clear disgust as he led Captain Alex Reed through the empty corridors of the ship. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of irritation among his kind. "This is what you're giving us?" Alex asked, running his hand along a wall panel that came loose at his touch. "Be grateful, human," Krell said, his translator making his voice sound flat. "High Command was going to scrap it. I suggested giving it to your kind instead." He made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The weakest ship for the weakest species." Alex kept his face blank. 6 years in the Federation fleet had taught him when to hold his tongue. Humans had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago, and many older species still looked down on them. "We appreciate the opportunity, Admiral," Alex said with a small bow of his head. Krell seemed disappointed by the lack of reaction. "The transfer papers are already filed. The Tenacity is now under human command." He turned to leave, then added, "Try not to blow yourselves up. The paperwork would be annoying." After the Admiral left, Alex let out a long breath and looked around the empty bridge. The ship was old, yes, but he could see past the dust and broken panels. He pressed his hand against the captain's chair and smiled for the first time in months. "Our ship," he whispered. 3 days later, Alex stood in the same spot as 4 humans walked onto the bridge. They looked around with mixed expressions of doubt and curiosity. "Welcome aboard the Tenacity," Alex said. "This is it?" asked a tall woman with short black hair and dark eyes. "This is the amazing opportunity you promised, Captain Reed." Alex nodded. "This is it, Foster. The Federation has given us our own ship." Jane Foster, weapons specialist, kicked a loose panel on the floor. "They gave us garbage." "They gave us freedom," Alex corrected her. "No oversight, no aliens watching over our shoulders and telling us we're doing everything wrong." Mac Williams, a stocky man with grease already staining his uniform, had been examining a control panel. He looked up with a grin that transformed his serious face. "They gave us a blank slate, Captain. I can already see the possibilities." "That's the spirit I was hoping for," Alex said, nodding at Mac. Tom Garcia, navigation officer, was already sitting at the pilot station, running his hands over the controls. "Primitive, but the basics are solid. I could make this old bird dance with the right modifications." The last member of the group, Lisa Cooper, had been silent. The science officer walked slowly around the bridge, stopping to examine different stations with her analytical gaze. "They don't know what they've given us, do they?" she finally said, a small smile forming on her lips. "No," Alex agreed. "They think they're insulting us, giving the humans a ship that's fit for the junkyard, but they don't understand us yet." He moved to the center of the bridge. "Humans have always done our best work when backed into a corner, when given scraps and told to make do." He gestured around the bridge. "This ship is a gift. We can rebuild it our way. No Federation standards to follow, no alien engineers telling us our ideas are too risky." "What exactly are you suggesting, Captain?" Foster asked, her interest clearly growing. "I'm suggesting we show the Federation what humans can do with the right motivation." Alex pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the bridge. "I've spent the last 3 days making plans. The Tenacity might be the weakest ship in the fleet now, but when we're done with it." The 4 officers gathered around the display, their faces lit by its blue glow. "This is highly irregular," Cooper said, though her eyes shone with excitement as she examined the plans. "And probably against at least 15 Federation regulations," Garcia added with a growing smile. "Definitely against regulations," Mac confirmed, already making notes on his datapad, "but completely possible." Foster was the last to speak. The weapon systems you're proposing aren't in any Federation handbook. That's because they're human designs, Alex said. Modified, improved, and adapted for our purposes. The weapons specialist nodded slowly. How long do we have? 6 months before our first official mission. 6 months to turn this junk heap into something the Federation has never seen before. Alex looked at each of them in turn. I chose each of you because the Federation has overlooked your talents, called your ideas too dangerous, too unpredictable, too human. He closed the holographic display. Are you with me? One by one, they nodded. Then let's get to work. The next morning, a group of alien officers watched from the observation deck as humans swarmed over the old ship. Equipment and material were being moved inside in a constant stream. What are they doing? Asked a junior officer, his antenna twitching with curiosity. Commander Vex, a veteran officer with gray scales and a cynical outlook, laughed. Trying to polish a meteor. The humans think they can turn that ancient cruiser into something useful. Should we be concerned? The junior officer asked. About humans? Never. They're too emotional, too impulsive. They'll get frustrated and request a transfer to a real ship within a month. Vex turned away from the window. Place your bets now, everyone. I give them 3 weeks before they admit defeat. The aliens laughed and began calling out their predictions, none giving the humans more than a month. Inside the Tenacity, Alex heard the laughter through the still-open docking port. He shared a look with Mac, who was setting up his engineering station. They're betting against us, Mac said quietly. Alex nodded, his jaw set with determination. They always do. Their mistake, Mac replied with a grin. Alex looked around at his crew, already hard at work transforming the ship. Foster was dismantling the weapon systems, her movements precise and confident. Garcia had the navigation console in pieces around him. Cooper was mapping out space for her special project in the cargo bay. Yes, Alex said, their mistake. He closed the docking port, shutting out the sound of alien laughter. For the next 6 months, it would be just them and the ship. 6 months to prove the humans weren't the weakest link in the Federation. 6 months to turn the Tenacity into something that would change the course of history. 3 months passed in a blur of activity. From the outside, the Tenacity still looked much the same, an aging light cruiser with faded markings and a hull that had seen better days. But inside, it was becoming something else entirely. Captain Alex Reed stood in what used to be the main engine room, watching as Mac Williams connected glowing blue cables to a spherical device suspended in a transparent containment field. The device pulsed with energy, casting strange shadows around the room. Is it stable? Alex asked, keeping his distance as instructed. Mac wiped sweat from his forehead and nodded. As stable as something like this can be, it's not exactly in the Federation engineering handbook. Will it pass the inspection next week? Mac laughed. Only if the inspector doesn't know what he's looking at. He patted the control panel lovingly. I've added some false readings that will make it look like a standard fusion reactor with a few human modifications, nothing that would raise alarms. Alex nodded, relieved. Good, keep it that way. He left Mac to his work and moved toward the weapons bay. The corridors of the Tenacity were a maze of exposed wiring and new panels installed over old ones. Crew members passed by, carrying equipment that would have raised questions at any Federation facility. Alex had made sure all their unusual requests were spread across different supply orders and came through various channels. So far, no one had noticed the pattern. He found Jane Foster in the weapons bay, surrounded by disassembled parts from what used to be the ship's main defense systems. The standard laser cannons had been removed, replaced by what looked like much smaller, weaker weapons. How's it coming? Alex asked. Foster looked up from her work, a rare smile on her face. Better than expected. The new targeting system is twice as accurate as the Federation standard, and the power consumption is minimal. And the special project? Her smile disappeared, replaced by a serious expression. In progress, Cooper's calculations were correct. It's possible, but we're in uncharted territory. if anyone finds out what we're really building here. They won't, Alex assured her. Remember compartmentalization. Each of you knows only your piece of the puzzle. Foster nodded and returned to her work. Next, Alex visited the navigation center, where Tom Garcia was testing a new control system. His fingers flew over the holographic display as he ran simulations. How fast can she go? Alex asked, watching as virtual stars streaked by on the screen. Officially, Garcia grinned, Federation standard for a ship this class. Unofficially, he pressed a sequence of buttons, and the simulation showed the tenacity performing a maneuver that should have torn an old ship apart. Let's just say we'll surprise them. Good work, Alex said, patting Garcia on the shoulder. Keep the visible modifications minimal, save the surprises for when we need them. The final stop was the large cargo bay that had been converted into Lisa Cooper's laboratory. Access was restricted to Cooper and Alex alone. Even among the crew with high security clearance, what happened in this room was known to only a few. Cooper didn't look up when Alex entered. She was focused on a complex holographic model floating above her workstation, a swirling pattern of energy that folded in on itself in impossible ways. Progress? Alex asked quietly, not wanting to break her concentration. It's working, she said, eyes still fixed on the model. The equations balance. In theory, we can collapse the field in a controlled manner, creating exactly the effect we want. She finally looked at him, her eyes showing both excitement and fear. But Alex, if we're wrong, if the calculations are off even slightly. I know the risks, he said. We all do. Cooper nodded slowly. The Federation would never approve this. They'd shut us down in a heartbeat if they knew. That's why they don't know and won't know until it's too late to stop us. Alex studied the swirling model. How long until it's ready? The control systems will be in place before the inspection. The actual mechanism won't be activated until we need it. Cooper shut down the hologram. Are you sure about this, Captain, once we go down this road? The Vanish Collective isn't giving us a choice, Alex said grimly. You've seen the intelligence reports. Their fleets are getting closer to human colonies every day. The Federation's conventional weapons aren't enough. And if the Federation orders us not to use it? Alex's face hardened. Then we'll face that problem when it comes. 1 week later, Inspector Trawl, a tall, thin alien with pale blue skin, walked through the tenacity with a datapad in his 3-fingered hand. Captain Reed led the tour, explaining the minor modifications they had made to adapt the ship to human use. Your power readings seem unusually efficient for a ship this age, Trawl noted, studying his datapad with suspicion. Engineer Williams has a talent for optimizing systems, Alex explained smoothly. It's a human specialty, making more with less. Trawl made a note, and these weapon systems, significantly reduced from the original specifications. We found the original systems outdated and power-hungry, Alex said. Our modifications are more efficient if less impressive in raw power. The inspector looked unconvinced but continued the tour. At each stop, he found things that didn't quite match Federation standards, yet nothing that violated regulations severely enough to warrant intervention. At the end of the inspection, Trawl stood at the docking port, clearly frustrated. I don't understand what you humans are doing with this ship, he admitted. You've reduced its offensive capabilities, rerouted power systems in unorthodox ways, and modified the navigation controls using methods our engineers would never approve. Yet technically, you've stayed within regulations. He sighed, a whistling sound through his thin nostrils. I'm approving your modifications, but under protest. Alex kept his expression neutral as he accepted the approved datapad. Thank you, Inspector. We appreciate your thoroughness. After Trawl left, Alex found his senior officers waiting in the bridge. We passed, he announced, and a cheer went up among the crew. Did he suspect anything? Cooper asked quietly. He knew something was strange but couldn't put his finger on what, Alex replied. The important thing is we're clear for launch next week. Mac raised an eyebrow, and then, Alex said, we show the Federation what the weakest ship in the fleet can really do. The crew exchanged glances, part excitement, part apprehension. They had transformed a forgotten relic into something unprecedented, a vessel that looked harmless on the outside but contained power that could change the course of the war. Now they just needed the chance to prove it. That chance would come sooner than any of them expected. The Tenacity drifted at the edge of the new Terra system, running what Captain Reed officially called standard shakedown tests. For 2 weeks, they had been pushing the ship to its limits, far from curious eyes. Each test proved what the crew already knew. This was no longer the weakest ship in the fleet. It was something else entirely. Alex sat in the captain's chair, reviewing the latest test results on his screen when the emergency alert sounded. A message flashed across his display. Priority 1 communication. "Put it through," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the stressed face of a colonial officer. Behind him, people rushed back and forth against a background of flashing red lights. "This is New Terra Colony calling any Federation ships in range," the officer said, his voice strained. "We are under attack by Vanish forces. 3 enemy warships have entered orbit. Our defenses cannot hold. Requesting immediate assistance." Alex leaned forward. "This is Captain Reed of the Federation cruiser Tenacity. We're at the edge of your system. What's your situation?" The officer's face showed momentary relief, then concern as he registered which ship had responded. "Captain, we have over 5,000 colonists here. The Vanish came without warning. Our orbital defenses are already down, ground shields at 50% and falling." He hesitated. "Your vessel is a light cruiser, correct?" "We'll handle it," Alex said firmly. "Begin evacuation procedures. Use whatever ships you have to get people to the southern continent emergency bunkers. We'll engage the Vanish and buy you time." The officer looked doubtful but nodded. "Understood, Captain, and thank you." When the communication ended, Alex turned to his bridge crew. "Battle stations." As alarm bells rang throughout the ship, Foster spoke up from the weapons station. "Sir, we have direct orders to remain at our testing position. Federation Command will." "Federation Command is 10 hours away at best," Alex cut her off. "New Terra will be gone by then." He turned to Garcia at navigation. "Set course for New Terra, maximum speed." Garcia's fingers flew over the controls. "Course set. At standard cruising speed, we'll arrive in 40 minutes. "We're not using standard speed," Alex said. "Activate the phase drives." A hush fell over the bridge. They had tested the experimental drives at 1/4 power, but never at full capacity. "Sir," Mac said from the engineering station, "the drive hasn't been fully tested. The stress on the hull could—" "We don't have a choice," Alex said. "Those colonists don't have 40 minutes. He looked around at his crew. "This is what we built this ship for. This is our test." After a moment, Mac nodded. "Aye, Captain. Phase drives preparing for full power." "All hands secure for high-speed maneuvers," Alex announced over the shipwide system. "This might get rough." The Tenacity hummed as energy built up in its modified engines. On the outside, the ship still looked like an aging cruiser, but inside, power levels rose far beyond what should have been possible for a vessel its size. "Phase drives ready," Mac reported. "Engage," Alex ordered. The stars outside stretched into lines as the Tenacity leaped forward at impossible speed. The hull creaked and groaned under the strain but held together. In just under 8 minutes, they dropped out of phase drive near New Terra, the blue-green planet filling their view screen. 3 black, spike-shaped Vanish warships hung in orbit, firing energy beams at the colony's weakening shields below. "They haven't spotted us yet," Foster reported from weapons. "Their sensors are focused planet-side." "Power signature minimal," Cooper added. "We look like background radiation to them." Alex leaned forward in his chair. "Foster, target the lead ship's main weapon array. Minimal power, maximum precision." "Targeted," Foster confirmed. "But sir, at minimal power we'll barely scratch their armor." Alex smiled. "We're not trying to destroy them yet, just get their attention." The Tenacity fired a single narrow beam that struck the lead Vanish ship precisely where its main weapon connected to the power core. The effect was immediate. The enemy vessel's energy weapons flickered and died, and it began to turn slowly in space, searching for its attacker. "They've spotted us," Garcia reported. "All three ships are changing course, weapons locking on." "Evasive maneuvers," Alex ordered. "Pattern Omega." The Tenacity moved with a speed and agility that defied its appearance, dancing between enemy fire as the vanished ships gave chase. Each time they fired, the human vessel seemed to shift slightly out of phase, becoming ghostly and transparent for brief moments. "Foster, target the second ship's propulsion system," Alex commanded. "Half power." This time, the beam that shot from the Tenacity was stronger, cutting through the vanished ship's rear shields and striking its engines. The enemy vessel spun out of control, its propulsion systems flaring wildly before shutting down. The third and largest vanished ship launched a swarm of small fighter craft. 15 fighters incoming," Garcia warned. "They're trying to surround us." "Cooper," Alex called, "time to test your defense system." Cooper nodded and activated a sequence on her console. The Tenacity pulsed with energy, and a barely visible field expanded outward from the ship. As the fighters entered the field, their systems failed. They drifted helplessly, weapons and engines dead. The bridge crew watched in amazement. The system had worked perfectly in simulations, but seeing it in action against real enemies was something else entirely. "The colony reports evacuation is 30% complete," Mac reported. "They need more time." The lead Vanish warship had repaired its weapons and was now firing a continuous energy beam at the Tenacity. The ship shuddered as the beam struck its shields. "Shields holding at 85%, Cooper reported, "but they're adapting to our frequency." Alex gripped the arms of his chair. "Mac, give me 70% on the phase drive. Garcia, take us into attack pattern Delta." The Tenacity surged forward, then seemingly blinked out of existence. The vanished ships fired at where it had been, hitting nothing. Seconds later, the human vessel reappeared behind the lead warship. "Fire all weapons, maximum power," Alex ordered. The Tenacity's weapons, which had appeared so minimal to Inspector Trawl, now revealed their true nature. Concentrated beams of energy struck the vanished ship at precise points, bypassing shields to hit vulnerable systems. The enemy vessel convulsed as critical systems failed in cascade. "One down," Foster reported as the vanished ship's lights went dark. "The disabled ship is retreating. The third is still active and calling for reinforcements." "How long on the evacuation?" Alex asked. "Another 20 minutes to get the remaining colonists to safety," Cooper replied. Alex nodded. "Then we give them 20 minutes. He opened a channel to the colony. "New Terra, this is Captain Reed. Continue your evacuation. We'll hold them off." As the Tenacity engaged the final Vanish warship, Federation sensors 10 light-years away detected the battle. Admiral Krell watched in disbelief as the ship he had dismissed as junk somehow held its own against superior forces. "Impossible," he muttered. "What have those humans done?" News of the Tenacity's victory at New Terra spread quickly through the Federation. What should have been impossible, a single outdated light cruiser defeating 3 Vanish warships, had happened. The story grew with each telling, and soon the human crew found themselves treated with a mixture of respect, curiosity, and suspicion. 2 weeks after the battle, the Tenacity docked at Central Command Station for repairs and debriefing. Captain Alex Reed stood at attention in the main conference room, facing the Federation's highest military leaders. Admiral Krell sat at the center of the panel, his 4 eyes fixed on Alex with an unreadable expression. "Captain Reed," Krell began, "your actions at New Terra saved over 5,000 colonists. For that, the Federation thanks you." He paused. "However, you directly disobeyed orders to remain at your testing position." "Yes, Admiral," Alex said calmly. "I made the decision that saving lives was more important than following protocol." A murmur ran through the assembled officers. Such a direct challenge to authority was rare in Federation proceedings. Admiral Kent, the head of the Federation military, leaned forward. "What interests us more, Captain, is how your ship performed during the battle. The elderly officer's face was deeply lined from centuries of service. The tenacity moved faster than any ship in our fleet. It seemed to phase in and out of normal space. Its weapons were far more effective than they should have been. He fixed Alex with a stern gaze. No standard Federation modifications could account for what we observed.